if you've been married against your will, there's strong grounds for possible divorce at some point in life. On the other hand, people who've fallen in love can fall out of love as easily.
And grow out of love.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't like using the word falling in love because I always think I've been raised in it, but never fallen for it. But that's not the point. But the point is that that's the phrase that's used. So if you've fallen in love, inexplicably love at first sight can also be love out at first sight. I mean, how can you explain one without accepting the other? It can happen. I mean, Russell, who married several times, he said that he was very much in love with his wife, and one fine day while he was bicycling, it suddenly dawned upon him that he was no longer in love with her. So he went back and told her that I'm no longer in love with you. And she said, I've been thinking the same thing, and so they split, and they remained happily ever after as friends.
As friends.
So I don't see a problem here.
Why is that still such a necessity in our society? I mean, we've moved ahead. I think we've become forced marriages, if, you know, like you said, making or ruining a woman's life. If you're not inclined towards women, if you're not inclined towards a committed relationship with a woman, why get into it?
Yeah, the worst part of it is actually that once they do marry, it doesn't work out, and then they break up anyway. And in the process, the girl's life is ruined. And, you know, because then there is all the stigma of divorced, the stigma. Why? Then the families who, in the first place, were not willing to recognize that their son was not wanting to marry a woman or whatever his reasons were, now have to live with the fact that they'll get the backlash of that. So they will go out of their way and spread rumors about the girl and her character and her being the cause of divorce. And I really think that
the vicious cycle.
This is vicious. I mean, and I've known this to happen at least in a couple of cases. I know, but one particular case where the boy's family is extremely well read and very well educated. He was one of the top writers in the country, and he himself was taken by surprise having had this boy. But the boy said, I want to marry. And he came here and he got married to this girl and took the girl from here to America and dumped her at a friend's house and left and was living with someone else. And so she had to come back. And it's a sad story, but he did this because the family honor was at stake.
Why is it so negative or derogatory? Like, I mean, you come across so many families, Zach, who are still, you know, they're affluent, educated. Well, I'll say literate, let's not say educated, because that gives a different, you know, sort of twist on them. Educated to me is sort of liberal and open-minded. They will send their kids to college, their girls, and they will not allow them to work when they come back, because they're just like, we don't want them to get too independent, because we don't want her to feel that she can walk away and do her own thing, because we want her to be like, nahi, be the good wife. I mean, I don't understand it.
But this is very strongly, I mean, the wife plays also, I mean, the mother plays obviously a very submissive part in this also, and she's also a product of a culture and pressures things. And somehow people sort of blame the women for having been accomplices to, in fact, some perpetrators of this kind of crime. But the fact is, I think you have to give them a little leeway for what they have had to become. But since you're talking of marriage, I don't think we can isolate it from the position of women otherwise in general, because, you know, none of these problems that you're talking about are really men's problems. Very rarely has the man ended up in a bad marriage, because for him a bad marriage would mean that he could still go around, have affairs by the billion. He could maybe not have affairs necessarily, maybe could just go out drink, maybe could just go out party, spend the day at bridge, or sit in poetry sessions, play cricket, come back home at 2 o'clock at night. It is a completely independent life.
Isolated
she would be in her chadar and chardiwari. So therefore it's not so much his problem in practical terms. He might say, well, you know, I've got to feed and look after the children, but I mean, you know, when he doesn't want to, he doesn't do that either. So
and gets away with it very easily. Away with it.
So the point is, look at this, look at your own country's laws. So a simple law, your identification, your card carries daughter off and changes to wife off. Mine didn't carry son off, changing to husband off. Why is my identity still son of so-and-so, whereas my wife has become from daughter of so-and-so to my wife? On an identification, what difference does it make? Look at the hassle that puts you through. You change your you get a divorce. Your identification card still says you're married to so-and-so, your passport. So they're false documents now. You're a young woman who has now gotten into the additional problem of a divorce, possibly burdened with children, possibly with joblessness. Now you're running around to the identity card departments trying to produce legal documents to show that you are now no longer married. Your address has changed. Your father's name has to be put back as if you've now earned your father back again. Hey, get a passport, leave. So all this happens to women. This is an offshoot of a law which is based on the possession of women, because they're articles. I mean, even the 10 Commandments issue that. your cattle, your chattel,
Yes,
your slaves, and your
absolutely.
wives. So all of those go to the same way. So marriage becomes also a contract in which it's not an equivalent contract. Whatever else we may try and call it. I recently attended a marriage, and it was appalling. I mean, this is a girl who's getting married to a boy of her choice. The families have both agreed. It's wonderful. And there is this nikah nama, which is also a little biased. But at the end of the thing, the groom's uncle comes up to the bride's father and says, this is the happiest moment must be for you, because although we realize that a son's marriage is very happy as well, but a daughter's marriage must be so much happier क्योंकि आपके सर से बोझ उतर गया. Right.
You're kidding
I mean,
me.
at the ceremony, 2 minutes after this, the
How did the father
congratulations say,
react? I hope he
I don't think the father reacted anything differently than other men would.
and said JJ.
Obviously, because he also probably may believe
Felt.
that. I don't know. I mean, it's a cultural thing, and it's been repeated so often.
Talking about, the nikah nama and the legal practices, Zach. I mean, if we did a show on nikah nama. I'm married. I happen to have read my nikah nama. And you do have rights if you choose to read through them. And if your families
Supported.
choose to support you, absolutely. Why is it that in those situations, it always becomes very emotional? If it's haq meher, it becomes very emotional, that it's very
See, at
offensive.
the back of the nikah nama used to be this little typed or stamped clause at one time when I got married half a century ago. But I mean, where it said that the wife has the right
to
of
divorce. Absolutely.
And it had to be cut in many nikah namas because the boy's family would not allow it. And at least one case I know of where the girl's family wouldn't allow it.
Several,
I'm sure.
The girl's family turns and says, what is this?
नहीं,
You
ये तो-
can't, I mean, बुरा लग रहा है.
The girl's
क्या ये
family would
कोई-
say कि this is un-Islamic. And that's why it's at the back of the nikah nama, it's not on the front. If it had been Islamic, why wasn't it incorporated into the main nikah nama? So, but it's not an equivalent document. Now, this is not the nikah nama, by the way, is not a religious document. It's a legal document.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't have a pro forma in the Quran as to what the nikah nama will be.
Yes.
Nikah itself is referred to as a sunnat, not as a farz.
But that's the witnesses and the fact that,
The format of the
the
nikah
format
is
of
what
the
the
nikah.
sunnat is. We are doing
Yes.
this nikah in the style of sunnat. The fact that you are marrying is by itself, क्या उससे पहले भी शादी होती थी, उनके बाद भी होती थी,
बिल्कुल,
तो
बिल्कुल.
वो सिर्फ सुन्नत तो नहीं है. तो but that will become forced slowly with fundamentalism and various other things. They'll go that way as well.
Well, we have to go on a very short break if you'll allow
Okay,
us that.
sure.
Because, we have to sell things as well in the break.
Do?
Typical, yes.
But
Not
there's
me
one-
personally, but
Okay,
generally.
okay. Okay.
With that, just
Don't sell marriage.
yes, a very short break. Please join us again in just a couple of minutes.